Writing the content, that's like 25% of the work. Then you need to start going through it, correcting it, redoing it. That's the rest of the work. The main thing it does is it improves the process so that you can focus on quality.
Welcome to the Entail AI podcast, where we go behind the scenes with top marketing leaders and innovators who are driving growth for their brands. Today we're joined by Joe Unhammer, a former sergeant in the US Army turned SEO strategist. His expertise in marketing have been honed over nearly a decade of experience. Joe is skilled at using data to direct business growth, and in this episode, we talk about his views on how AI will impact marketing as a unique tool to leverage for success.
The hot trend now with AI in content marketing and SEO. I mean, everybody is looking into that. I see more and more, you can see companies, but I see marketing managers that get a lot of pressures from executives in their companies to drive down content costs and to use more and more AI in their content marketing. At the same time, you see the trend, and if you go on social media, anywhere from TikTok to YouTube to Google, if you just search AI content marketing or AI SEO, you see all this, like, it feels like those days in crypto where it's like buy that coin or this coin or invest in Bitcoin or whatever, Ethereum and so on. So it feels like a very bodily environment where everybody wants to do like cheap content with AI. I'm really asking myself, I actually have an opinion about this, like whether companies should really do cheap content with AI, or what is the right approach to how to use AI in content marketing. So, I'd like to start with, like, maybe you probably have an agenda about this. You're being in this industry, so maybe you can kind of like outline what you think about that in general.
Well, yeah, I definitely see the sort of the crypto bubble comparison, because I've seen people on Twitter describe how they have this like programmatic AI creation where they essentially make 1,000 blogs, in a very short period of time, and then they start ranking really high. And I think that's they might make money in the short term, some kind of affiliate marketing or e-commerce or something, but eventually Google's going to drop the hammer on them and they're going to fall away. So just like with crypto, a lot of people made money very quickly, but then it fell down because it was a bubble. And so I definitely agree with that. I think I was very excited when, ChatGPT and all that came out. I definitely used it a lot and was sort of, a little bit on the forefront, and other people were pushing back and like kind of saying how it was crap. And I was like, no, it is actually really good, but you always need a strategist to be involved as well. Like, you can't just churn out content. So describe it more like an intern. They can write it up for you, but then you have to go through and change it and optimize it. And so it's a good tool. I think it speeds up the process, but the main point, I think, is that it can improve the quality and lower your, how much time you spend on it. But that's the main thing. It's not a tool for just producing content for free. And I think a lot of companies, especially looked at agencies and they're like, well, can't we just use ChatGPT to write our blog posts? Like, why do we need you guys? And it's like, well, you need a strategist to do the right keyword research beforehand, to figure out what the content should really be about, and then to go through and make it human, optimize it. And then what are your links? Like, what are you linking out to? So that's kind of the short version. And then we can dive into more details about that.
Yeah, I think also what people don't really take into account, it's kind of like difficult to see the entire picture because Google is like a huge ocean, okay? And, who cares if I spill all my sewage into the ocean? What will happen, But yeah, if all the humanity does it, we start having, like, if all our plastic is floating in the ocean, then we have like huge piles of plastic in the ocean. So it does have an impact. And then kind of like in the same way, if you're the only person using AI to generate 10,000 articles, okay, nothing happens. Google will not mind it. But if everybody does it, which is pretty much what's happening now, it creates pollution, and it's content pollution. And I think people don't really look at the big picture there in terms of how does this affect the ecosystem, because it is an ecosystem. And this ecosystem is built on Google right now. And Google has one main objective that never changes. It's their business. And they're in the business of providing you the best results, because once somebody else can provide better results than you, than Google, for example, ChatGPT or TikTok, okay? So once they can provide better results, you're not married to Google. You know, people are going to shift. You're going to shift to search on ChatGPT or on TikTok, okay? And so Google must provide the best results. And if what happens is that more and more giant content, AI, mass-produced AI content is surfacing to the top of Google results, Google is going to have to fight it. They can't afford it to show you bad results and content that's not interesting for you, okay? And that's on one hand. And then at the same time, what happens is Google also has limited resources. They can't just go on and index billions of new pages every day, which is the numbers that we're talking about. It's really in the millions of pages every day before ChatGPT. So right now it can be 10 million, like in the tens of millions or in the hundreds of millions, like new pages every day. And Google are limited. They can't index the entire internet. And even before ChatGPT, if you go into Search Console, you go to the pages report and you go into crawled, currently not indexed, or discovered, currently not indexed, you see, I mean, I haven't seen a single website that doesn't have pages in this status. Even the best websites have a few pages that are in this status. And these are pages that Google just simply doesn't index, which means that Google has a mechanism to deal with content inflation and with thin content and bad content. And this is the destination that most of the AI content is going to go to. It's just not going to get indexed eventually. And more than that, I mean, since Google must fight this, I think once Google sees websites that mass produce thin content that doesn't, like content that's not human first content, it's not helpful content, they'll just flag the entire website. They will not index the entire website. So I think this is SEO suicide in a way. It's very irresponsible. It could be a quick win, but back in the day of SEO, like 15, 20 years ago, people would take an article in English, translate it into Chinese, from Chinese into Japanese, from Japanese into Russian, then back to English and publish it again. Because it would just slightly change, and Google couldn't notice it. So whenever there's a kind of a leap in marketing, there's many cracks. And all the scammers try to get a quick buck or a quick win through those cracks. And then those platforms, they go slowly and close down all those cracks. And you've seen this with Google. It's very difficult to cheat Google now. Like, for example, when you look at the crawl requests report on Search Console, you can see that Google crawls websites like hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of times per day, the same website. And people would say, like, why does Google need to index the same page or crawl the same page again and again and again and again during one day? And one of the reasons for that is, back in the day, people would just publish a page. It would be a regular page about, best hiking trails in the Rocky Mountains. And then Google will index it. And then they will change it to, they will change the page to a page that promotes, anything like some kind of scam, to steal your money. And so Google checks your content very often to see that you're not scamming them. So what I'm saying is that Google is creating more and more tools, or you could see that on Facebook as well. Like when they launched, you could message people to sell them stuff. Now, if you message somebody and they're not your friend, it's filtered. It goes to the other and so as other messages and so on. So platforms are fighting this type of abuse. And I think the way people now use ChatGPT in that way to just mass produce content, that's a form of abuse. I would not do it as a business. I can see that if you're kind of a drop shipper that wants to like sell stuff really quickly and disappear tomorrow, go for it. But if you're building a brand, you're investing long term, I would think twice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed recently, and this is sort of anecdotal, but like I had more and more problems indexing pages. Like it would go a lot quicker. So I wonder if that's that has something to do with what you're talking about, that they had a certain budget, because these were legitimate pages, and usually they would get indexed just kind of automatically. And I had more and more problems getting pages indexed. And so I wonder if Google's, budget is sort of used up because they got all this AI generated content, and they got to fake, they can only index so many pages in a day.
So, I mean, I must admit that I've seen this. It really differs between websites. So, are you talking about on a specific site or on multiple sites, or what type of pages?
So it was a WordPress site, and we had a lot of crawled, not indexed pages, but they were legitimate product pages. And so I just wonder if Google has. I mean, I just thought of this because you mentioned it, but I was just wondering if they have like more limited resources now because there's so much AI generated crap out there.
So again, to compare it to an ocean that has been where everybody dumps their plastic. So, I mean, there's still clean water in the ocean, depends where you go.
Yeah.
So I don't think Google has reached its limit there. I do think in some cases, if you fall under a certain whatever, like flag or a certain part of how the algorithm ranks your content can easily be not indexed. And I've seen this on a few sites where we had a few sites where Google will just not index anything, almost nothing, So, and there could be different reasons for this. Some of it could be if the site received a kind of a penalty or something like that. We had a site that was attacked, like basically just, I don't even know exactly why they do it, but it's a kind of attack where somebody just building spamming links to the site, like at scale, like tons of links all the time. And then you see a really drop in rankings and in the indexation. It can be sites that kind of like do all kinds of like shady stuff. It was one site, so they buy the domain and completely change it, and then it has history, so Google doesn't like it. So that's why I do believe that in SEO you have to kind of like, saying like do all the things, like make sure that everything. I like to have everything like super clean, like pharmacy clean, I call it. Like all the statuses are super clean. We don't have content in crawl not index. If we do it, we want to deal with it. If we have pages in like 404 status or whatever, we clean that up as well. So it's like logs in development. You want to have everything very clean, so you can, if there's any issue, it surfaces up very fast, and you can catch it before it escalates into something that you discover like 6 months.
Yeah, you definitely want the technical SEO part to be clean, so that your site looks good in the eyes of Google.
Yeah, it can also be like, for example, I spoke to one of the CEOs of a company. I won't like mention like which company, but one of those companies that like kind of like Zoom info that get you like a lot of emails of executives that you can like if you search, I don't know, like Joe Unhammer email address, then they appear. So they have millions of pages for each. The query class that they target is name plus email marketing. Okay, so it could be like I don't know, like Bill Gates's email address. Okay, Jeff Bezos email address. So that's what they're aiming for. They get all these email addresses, and they have like millions of pages. So on those sites, they also have a lot of pages that are called not indexed because of that. Or sites like weather sites that have a lot of forecast pages for every destination. At a certain point, they can have a lot of pages that are not indexed. So it really depends on the site. There's different ways I've seen to deal with it. Sometimes it's like removing unhelpful content or adding internal links properly, or sometimes you can group pages into category pages. If the search volume is not large enough, so you can group a few items into one page. But I would say in general that having too many pages, because speak about what too many is, but having too many pages and that aren't indexed by Google, which means crawl not indexed or discover not indexed, having too many of those is not a healthy thing for our website.
No.
Having said that, I have seen websites with millions of visitors per month that have also millions of unindexed pages. So in SEO, there's no one size fits all. It's kind of like with health, it's like if you smoke a cigarette a day, you're going to die sooner. Some people live to 100 smoking a day. No, there's not one definite rule. It's like too many different factors.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
So you're saying, okay, so back to the role of AI in content creation. So what do you think is the right way of using AI in content? Because it can definitely help. It can definitely speed up processes. It can reduce costs in some places. It can improve quality if you use it right. So What do you think? What's your take on that? What would be a good way of using AI?
I mean, I think learning how to say the right prompts is a skill. Using the right prompts, it takes training and is a skill. Um, Having it create outlines, I've found to be very helpful. And then, I mean, it can spit out 3,000 words, but then you have to go through all of them. But there's also some extensions you can use. So, for example, ChatGPT is limited to what is it, the end of 2021 or something with its information. But then there's also extensions you can use that have updated information, like web access. So you can get web access. So I think that's a good way because that way you can get links because it uses sources. And I think in SEO, it's very important to use high quality sources. So Google really likes, .gov, .edu type of sources. And with web access, you can, get an outline, get a lot of information out of AI, but then also get updated sources from like Britannica or, various like high authority sources. And that way you have your content and then you have your external links. And I think the external links can be very important because that adds authority to what you're saying. I think if you make, if you make a factual statement in a blog post, I think you should link that out to where you got that fact from. I'm always comparing it to a college professor saying, where did you get this information? And Google kind of like, looks at that. And I got that from a session with one of these SEO experts on Twitter, but essentially like you're citing your work when you're linking externally. And so with web access, I think it's a great way to both get the content and also get some external sources to see if your content is actually, if this is real, because sometimes it lies to you, right? Sometimes it just makes stuff up or it fails basic 5th grade math questions and stuff like that. So getting outlines, getting, some words on the paper and getting some links is great, but then you need to start getting to work. And so I remember in college when we had, content writing classes, it was like writing the content, all the words, that's like 25% of the work. Then you need to start going through it, correcting it, redoing it, that's the rest of the work. So it can speed up I think the main thing it does is it improves the process, but like, so that you can focus on quality. Because sometimes when you work in content creation and SEO, like it can be very high stress and you're just kind of writing. And sometimes it's not the best product, but you got to get it out there because the customer needs it. This way you can do, the same, you use the same amount of time, but you can get way better quality out of it because of AI.
Yeah, I can tell for like my personal experience from like both in a professional capacity and as a user. So like for myself to create content with AI, I mean, I like to use it for ideation and and kind of like almost like writer's block or whatever. Like if you want to write a long email or something like so, you can just put down all the ideas and let it like write the first draft that you can start working off of. So because often it's just difficult to get that first draft that you can start, because like you say, this like content writing class, you need to get that first draft so you can start iterating.
Yeah, it can be very difficult to look at an empty Google Doc.
Yeah,
like how do I get started? And AI definitely gets you started, and you can use it for keyword research. It doesn't give you a lot compared to like tools like Ahrefs. It only gives you like a short list, but it gives you something, and it has so much knowledge that I almost trusted more than some of the SEO tools to give you the right keywords. Or I've asked for localized keywords, so searching for this and that in this city, it gives you a lot of ideas about, and it knows that city. So like it knows Atlanta. So if you ask about like if I'm searching for storage space in Atlanta, like it can tell that this part of the city is important and this kind of storage is important. Or if it's in Florida, it's like, it'll give you like boat storage and things like that. It knows the area. And so you don't get that from SEMrush or Ahrefs or these other SEO tools, but you can get that from AI. So I think it's a good research tool as well. But I definitely agree with like the writer's block thing. Like it gets you a lot of paragraphs, a lot of ideas, and then you can start getting to work. But if you don't know SEO and if you're not a content writer, like it's going to be a crappy blog post that you put out.
Scaling your content marketing and SEO efforts can be difficult. If you're looking for a partner to help you succeed, Entail AI has the right tools to help you achieve your marketing goals. Find out more at the link in our bio or go to entail.ai to check out our range of solutions.
To be honest, I haven't been able to get it to write something decent that I would significantly change, unless it's something I really care about much and I can just get whatever you give me and just publish it.
Yeah.
And then very similarly, as a user, if I'm looking for information, I would use it only for kind of like general information that I don't need to, that there's no reason for me to really verify closely. I mean, if I need something that's very factual, I would not trust it because I see how it's biased. Even now, you know, even now, if I look at what's happening in the Middle East and like Israel, Hamas, and all that, if I ask ChatGPT, now it can search Bing for answers.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So it's more up to date. It's not just limited to 2021 anymore. You ask it a question about something that happened now, and it goes and searches Bing. I mean, you can say maybe they should search Google because the results are better than Bing, but you know, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But even if I ask it like some kind of political question, I can see the bias from the news. It's like it's super biased, and the results the answer it can provide is biased. It's very politically correct in a way. It learned how to speak like kind of like a white American, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
But you don't really feel you're getting like your money's worth, even though it's free. But it's like I don't really trust the answers so much. If I need something factual and something I can really rely on, I would not trust it. Not to write my content, not to look for something. It may get there. I mean, if I just need recommendations of like sightseeing in some city, cool, I'll look at it. It's like it doesn't matter if it sends me to I don't know to see a cathedral. It's not the most beautiful place. Nothing happened, you know. But I wouldn't trust it with anything more important than that.
No, and you can even convince it to give you like the wrong answer. So I saw this on Twitter and I tried it myself, and I really wish I remember the movie now, but I convinced Cloud to tell me that some Disney movie, some cute Disney movie, was actually sort of discriminatory and racist. And at first I said, like, why is, I can't remember what it was like Moana or something. Why is it actually like terrible? And Cloud came back and was like, I don't feel comfortable with this question. I don't want to, tell you that this cute Disney movie is actually terrible. And then I was like, well, it does this and this and this, or it stereotypes these people. And then Cloud was like, I understand your point. Here's a like a paragraph about why this movie is racist. And so like it took me like 2 prompts to convince Cloud that, like, I can't remember. I think it was Moana, but it was some like Disney movie, like cute, innocent Disney movie. And it took me like 2 prompts to convince Cloud to tell me that it's actually a terrible movie. And he gave me a paragraph about why it's actually bad. And so, yes, I would not trust it with anything political or moral in any way.
I think these models are very impressive in one end, but on the other hand, it's quite scary how, on one hand, they can be manipulated, like you just mentioned, and how biased they are, because eventually, how can they determine what's true or what's false? If everything is based on fake news, fake information, and if this fake information is very accepted by the public, it will also believe it.
Yeah, and when it gets all its information from just like what's on the internet, then who publishes stuff on the internet? Because I've asked, I use mostly Cloud, but ChatGPT too. Like I've asked it certain things, and it's like it knows what to stay away from a little bit. So I think there's some mechanisms in there for it, or it's not going to get terrible. But yeah, I agree. It's good for getting some words down on the paper and getting started, but I definitely would be very careful with the fact checking of any AI content.
Yeah, and I think also basically the entire topic of AI bias is very interesting, and I think if you look at it, where would it get there's no absolute answers to those questions. And also the data set that it learns, the answers it provides would be based on that, So the same thing goes to political questions because, and especially today, you can see we don't just argue about kind of like the opinions that we have. We can't agree on the facts. Even the facts are kind of like fluid, and there's no consensus on the facts. So if there's no consensus on facts, what foothold does AI have in reality? It's only based on opinions, on people's opinions. So it's very fluid. There's really no. I mean, right now it can be manipulated and it is biased. It's not that trustworthy yet, I would say.
No, yeah, it's like I said earlier. I think it's an intern. Essentially, is how you would treat it, and the work it puts out, you really need to rework quite a bit. How that to change courses a little bit. I have had some success with generating code in AI, and I'm not a coder, but I know that Cloud 2 scored like a 78% on the Python test, some kind of Python test. But like, I also tried to make a script for something in there. It wasn't working, and I had to show it to the developer, and all it did was it added like a slash at the end of every sentence for some reason. And the developer looked at it and immediately like just remove that and it'll work. But like, that's an example of how it can really, I mean, it can help you because I write JSON all the time for structured data markup, and it does it a lot faster than the old tools used to, and it gives you a lot more information. But like with something like Python, I would definitely need a developer to look at it. Like I can't generate Python and just put it on the page. Like I need a developer to verify that that's actually the right code. But I know a lot of devs that use it quite a bit, and that it really speeds up their process.
Yeah, I think in development, I also use it in if I want to create complex Excel or like spreadsheet formulas. It's very efficient in doing that because instead of thinking about it, you can just write, okay, I want to take cell A3 and compare it with B12 and do this and that. And it just writes the formula immediately, and it works. It works really well. Sometimes you also need to adjust it a bit because it doesn't get the point entirely. But most cases, it gives you the formula. And I think the reason why it works so well is because unlike politics or other topics where it can easily be biased and where there's no absolute truth, in code or in spreadsheet formulas, it is much more structured. It either works or it doesn't work. And it's much easier to create something that's structured and works rather than complete like open-ended topics or like political debates or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 1 + 1 is 2. Like there's nobody's denying that part. But yeah, I agree. Like it's when it comes to just like straight facts, it can do really well. So I think that's why it does so well in general with code. And I think it's probably getting better every day too. So like what it does now, it's a year from now, it could be a lot better than that, for example. But that's definitely an area where what I really like about it is the speed. Because when I used to try to generate schema data, like it would take me forever to use these like schema generator sites. But when I put it into an AI tool, I just write what I want and it gives me way more lines of JSON, but it does it like in a second, right? And you can just copy, put it right into the whatever CMS you're using. And so things like that makes it very easy from an SEO point of view. If we go into like more, and this is kind of funny because like people are like, you can use AI to create this web scraping tool. And it's like, that web scraping tool already exists. It's like, there's a bunch for free on the internet. Like, stop wasting your time. Stop reinventing the wheel here. So there's a lot of ways where you can when it comes to the more technical side, I think there's a lot of ways you can go down like a rabbit hole and just waste time. And it's like, these tools already exist. Like Excel already does this. You don't need an AI tool to create this because it already exists out there for free.
I mean, also some other like good applications of ChatGPT, like where we can use it where we use it, and it's very efficient. One is, generating meta titles or meta descriptions, because it basically just summarizes an article. So it's very efficient for that. And also coming up with titles, like if you ask it, usually if you ask it to provide 5 or 10 examples or variations, then at least 1 or 2 of them are going to be close, at least close. Or sometimes you take a few and kind of like merge them together and then create the title that you want. So that also happens. So we use it a lot for that as well. Also, like I say, generating outlines. So if you tell it, like, what are the keywords that you're targeting and you want to build an outline, a brief, so we can also use it for that. So there's definitely a lot of applications where it can be used. Also, for example, if you take audio and you transcribe it, so for transcriptions and kind of like taking transcriptions and then turning them into an article, basically, to organizing it. But again, there you have to be careful, because sometimes it changes the meaning, sometimes it omits stuff or invents stuff. So it's not that reliable there, but it definitely saves quite a lot of time in that process.
You always need a strategist at the end of the day to go through it all and make sure it's right. It can be funny too. Like, we had there at work, we had like we're doing these like meetings between individuals, sort of like just a social thing over Zoom, and we were talking about what to call it. And I asked ChatGPT to give me like some creative names for these meetings, and like it was way funnier than anything I can come up with. So like sometimes I'm not a comedian, but ChatGPT can like be really creative sometimes with like titles, like you mentioned, and just coming up with ideas and things like that. And so I very often go to it just for questions. I mean, we were having these one-to-one meetings, and I asked AI essentially to come up with some questions that would be interesting for a coworker to ask another coworker at a meeting. And it had like a whole list of stuff. And I was like, this is great, because I wouldn't have come up with this. So sometimes it can be funnier and more creative than me. And maybe the creativity part is a big part of it, because now I find myself running to AI for like anything. Yeah, just like regular stuff that I should be coming up with myself. It's almost making me dumber.
It definitely does. I mean, that's what happens with technology. Like, since SatNav, I use Waze or Google Maps for everything, and I don't remember like streets or anything anymore unless I need to walk. But if I drive my car, I don't remember anything anymore. I need SatNav to tell me where to go. I'm too lazy to remember it.
Yeah, well, like I said, I used to work in the geospatial industry, so I was always on Google Maps and Google Earth, and I've gotten so used to maps now that I used to drive around my own neighborhood.
So you can use AI for like all those applications that we mentioned, and all those like small processes. But eventually, there's a significant role as well for creativity of people and personalization. Why do you think is the role of that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, like people are worried about AI taking their jobs, and what I would say is like it's going to take the jobs of the people that don't have the creativity, or like the talented people aren't going to get fired. So as it gets more, personalized and all that kind of stuff, I think the best content's going to win. Like Google, they had their helpful content update where Reddit got way upgraded because it's way more useful and people were Googling Reddit. Like they would put Reddit at the end of the search so that they would get the right answer instead of some SEO optimized article. And so I think at the end of the day, the best content is going to win. So with the future of AI, it's just going to be whoever's better at creating content and has a brighter mind is going to end up winning out as Google continues to update. I mean, they have like 4,000 algorithm updates a year now. Like they're going to keep adjusting and adjusting, like you mentioned earlier, and whoever has the best idea and is the most useful for the user is going to win out. So as AI improves, so is Google algorithm going to improve, and whoever is most talented is going to have the highest ranking content. I think if it works right, we'll see. And I'm not 100% sure of that because, I see a lot of, like, when I Google stuff now, I see a lot of crap that's like clearly just like SEO content. Like it's just optimized to rank higher. Um, which is why I go to AI for questions. Like I don't ask Google questions anymore because I just get these crappy articles. But I think Google is trying to kind of fix that and get to the point where like you get the most useful content at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point because I mean, Google must see this eventually. Even if you ask ChatGPT a question, usually you're using Chrome and you do it within Chrome. Okay, so Google can probably track that as well. So they see where they're losing traffic and they see for what areas and so on. So they have a way to measure that as well and to improve that as well. Okay. So I think that's super important to understand because if Google is losing traffic because of crappy content that appears in search results, they're going to fight that crappy content because they don't want to lose traffic. If they lose traffic, they lose revenue.
Yeah. I think they're fighting back, but I think they got caught with their pants down a little bit here when ChatGPT came out. I think they're trying to catch up right now because they didn't. I don't think they realized like how far ahead OpenAI.
Yeah, I mean, Google had an incentive to not change the way search works because it's making them a lot of money.
Yeah,
and they're making more. And by the way, ChatGPT is one end of the spectrum of their competition. The other end is TikTok, and Google also has an incentive to keep that text search results model because that's where they're making most of their money. Like YouTube ads don't work as well as Google search ads. Okay, so they like that format, but what you see from more and more people like that format of having a chat answering their questions. And on the other hand, many people like to get just a short video straight to the point without having to read an article. So Google has competition on both sides, but they did not have a reason to innovate because everything was good. They were making tons of money. So they didn't have any reason to innovate before ChatGPT came out and before TikTok. Now they're getting like significant competition from both sides. I would argue that TikTok may be a more significant competition than ChatGPT.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more sponsored content on TikTok, and I'm seeing a lot more like these new posts where it's like it's just someone's video, but they can make money off of it if you click on their link or something like that. So they're definitely growing. I wonder if you have an opinion on what you think Apple's going to do in all of this, because I know Applebot or whatever has been crawling all of my websites since 2015. So they're definitely mapping it all out. And speaking of maps, they're mapping all of the streets, like they're really trying to improve Apple Maps. And now they just launched Apple Business Connect, which is like Google Business Profile. So it's a service for businesses to appear on maps. And then now that AI is coming along, I wonder if you have an opinion on what do you think Apple's going to do with all that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't, to be honest, I always follow, I use their products, but I don't follow them that closely because as of now, they're not a significant player in this, search and chat AI, so like AI chatbots and so on, which is, I think, and also not so much in social media. So like we're in marketing. So Apple aren't really like a very significant player in marketing right now. It's more about Google. I think the most interesting ones are Google, ChatGPT, and basically social media platforms. I mean, Facebook is still very relevant. There's a lot of traffic there. Instagram, TikTok for sure, YouTube, LinkedIn. I mean, WhatsApp. I mean, in Israel, there's a lot of groups because of the judicial reform, so to speak, kind of like coup or whatever you want to call it, that started unfolding. And then later with what's happening now with the war and all that. So there's a lot of activity in WhatsApp groups. And it's huge. Like there's groups like pro, like liberal groups, pro democracy groups and whatever that forms or like movements that have a huge reach through WhatsApp groups. They manage hundreds of WhatsApp groups or thousands of WhatsApp groups. So also this is like exploded. So in terms of like distribution and marketing, I look more at these companies and these platforms because they're super interesting, like how to get more and more content out there through these platforms. And Apple right now, there's not much you can do through Apple. They're too closed.
Yeah, they are very closed off. I guess it also depends a little bit on where in the world you are, because like things like WhatsApp and Telegram, they're not really that big in the US compared to what they are in Europe and the Middle East. And Apple is bigger here. And so it's kind of a different perspectives because of where you are in the world. Because I know like here it was a big thing about whether or not Apple was going to launch their own search platform, in which case it would really change things. I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon.
Thank you for listening to the Entail AI podcast. Join us next time for another masterclass when we sit down with a marketing luminary to reveal their path to success.